everyone. This is Maheen, and welcome to the Canadian SME Small Business Podcast. Today, we are discussing the art of generational brand. In 2026, the consumer landscape is shifting away from disposable trends and towards heritage, discipline, and long-term sustainability. Joining us today is Nicholas Reichenbach, a serial entrepreneur and private equity investor who has made a career of scaling purpose-driven brands. After founding Flow Water, Nicholas has returned to his roots to relaunch Formosa Springs, one of North America's oldest natural artesian springs. He's here today to talk about taking a 155-year-old Ontario legacy and reimagining it for the modern wellness era. So without further ado, let's dive in and welcome Nicholas. Nicholas, it's a pleasure to have you back on the podcast with us. Thank you for joining. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Yourself?
Very well. Thank you so much. You're bringing such positive energy. We're loving it this morning. And Nicholas, you've built major brands before, but with Formosa Springs, you are focusing very heavily on generational thinking rather than just chasing the latest wellness fad. Please tell us what really defines a generational brand and how is it different from trend-driven startups?
Yeah, we're seeing, across the board that, the world's moving really fast right now. And there's so many different beverage brands and food brands that are popping up and new startups with, new designs. And what we're starting to see, in my opinion, with consumer trends, we're starting to see consumers anchoring back into brands that they can trust, and brands that have been around for a long time in the market and that have had trusted products in the market. Really starting to see a revival of that heritage brand, especially in Canada, with such deep heritage in our country. And also Canadians starting to embrace Canadian-led brands and Canadian-owned brands. And so Formosa, for me, really taps into that trend. And I got the opportunity to buy back my father's company, Formosa Springs Mineral Water, that he started in 1981 from a heritage brand called Formosa Springs. I'm here in Formosa today. And it's where I grew up in South Bruce County. And the brand has been around since 1870, selling mineral water as well as beer. And they kind of launched that in late 1800s and really started to be one of the first national Canadian brands. If you can imagine, they used to take mineral water and beer and ship it nationally by horse and buggy, you can see in the back. And to be able to take the brand that my father owned in 1981 and sold it in 1988 and relaunch the Formosa Springs mineral water since 1870 really puts us at the oldest Canadian, for sure, but North American oldest mineral water brand. It's almost 19 years older than even San Pellegrino from Italy. Just to give you a reference, is a 155-year-old brand that's been around serving really incredible mineral water, the highest quality mineral water in North America, in accordance to our TDS and alkalinity and functionality and taste, and be able to reimagine it, but also anchor back into the heritage brand. So we didn't really change the brand that much. Formosa Springs has been, trademarked and around for almost 155 years. And so what we're doing is relaunching that as a heritage brand and really anchoring into the quality of the product, but also doing it in a way that is sustainable for the environment, using glass as our champion SKU in 750. Moving into the hospitality and food service with that, and really, putting a beautiful Canadian brand alongside beautiful brands and hotels and restaurants across North America, across Canada initially, and but also producing cans and putting our high quality mineral water and still and sparkling in a 355 slim can so that people can enjoy it at quick serve restaurants as well as in your grocery stores, buying multi packs to be able to take it home and have hydration, premium hydration on the go.
Mhm.
Mm.
This is a great example. Thank you for walking us through this process, starting this legacy in the first place, Nicholas. But really great example in terms of telling us how do we really prioritize legacy and discipline over short-term hype, which really ensures that the brand remains relevant for decades rather than just a few fiscal quarters. Now, Nicholas, let's explore competing in a market that is dominated by global import brands. How can a Canadian brand compete against established global players in a premium market?
Well, so we have a home turf advantage at Formosa. We're bottled at the source right here in Formosa Valley, and we're not shipping internationally. So we have a price advantage in the sense that we're not paying for ships to come from Italy or France over into it, and then having a domestic product that we can compete at price parity to it really ultimately gives the choice to the consumer whether they want to support a local Canadian brand versus an international brand that's kind of more taxing on the environment, but also have that quality transcend into our product too. So I think it's super important when we're looking at competing against international brands domestically that we're matching and exceeding the quality of the product so that the whole genesis of it is that we're a higher quality, better tasting water and still in sparkling, but also doing it in a more responsible, sustainable way by reducing carbon emissions and gasoline taxing on the environment by shipping internationally. So we do it domestically here, and I think that that really gives us an advantage over international brands. And now more than ever, Canadians are looking for domestic products with all of the trade wars and tariffs that are being put on products. That Canadians are proud to support Canadian owned as well as Canadian brands that have been around for a long time.
Mhm. Well, leveraging high quality limestone filtration right here in Ontario, it really proves that domestic luxury can match and even succeed the standards of imported brands. Next up, Nicholas, let's look at how luxury hospitality is redefining product experience. Please tell us, how is premium water becoming part of the luxury hospitality experience?
Yeah, it's well, premium hydration has always been a part of the luxury hospitality space where they, serve it at the table, but as well as have it offered into their hotel rooms as a premium product, a proud Canadian product. But what's really changed a lot is the consumer's alcohol consumption. So before, even like 5 years ago in 2020 and 2019, you'd go out with a group of people to like a fine dining experience, or you're at a restaurant in a hotel, or your favorite kind of restaurant in your local area. And you'd sit down with four people and drink three bottles of wine and one bottle of water. That's what used to happen.
Right.
But now, because alcohol consumption is lower, people are very conscious about what they're putting in their body. The table is almost reversed. One
Mhm.
bottle of wine and three bottles of sparkling mineral water. And you're starting to see that across the board, that people are more health conscious about what they do, how they eat, but also how they drink and what they drink. And so I think premium hydration has always had a spot at the table, but now it's even more important as consumers are shifting away from wine and alcohol and shifting into premium hydration with functional benefits and great taste.
Mhm. No, this is very informative, and you've highlighted such a significant part of our daily lives that is the future of luxury hospitality, which is not no longer a future, it's here. And it tells us that, transforming everyday hydration into such a curated ritual that allows brands to connect with wellness conscious consumers on a much deeper level. Now, Nicholas, let's explore controlling quality through vertical integration. Tell us, why is vertical integration so important for maintaining product quality and integrity?
Well, for example, our water comes right from the source, in right into the middle of our 45,000 square foot manufacturing facility. So bottled at the source allows us to 100% control the quality of the product going in. In fact, the first time that our water ever sees air or light is when after it's been bottled and sealed, aseptically sealed. So it really does give us an advantage because you're not transporting the product, you're not pasteurizing and sterilizing or using industrial processing to be able to have shelf stable products. And I think that's the biggest thing when you're looking at what makes premium water that's bottled at the source a better, higher quality is that we do no industrial processing. We only do natural filtration to the water, and it goes right into the bottle within seconds of it coming out of the natural artesian spring. And that makes it very rare. There's probably only a handful of companies in North America that can actually bottle at the source, as well as have the high quality still mineral water that's super unique and requires a lot of unique geological conditions like limestone aquifers, which are very rare. There's only probably 5 in North America that are classified as mineral water. So the quality of the water, we're able to preserve the entire mineral composition, calcium, magnesium, potassium, and zinc at the source by not doing any industrial processing. Most water is industrial processed through reverse osmosis, which rips all of the minerals out and kind of distills it at the same time, but that takes all of the natural goodness out of it too, right? The quality of the calcium and magnesium that gives it natural electrolytes that hydrate the body faster, and then natural alkalinity with a pH of 8.1 that allows you to have a health benefit associated with it. What it does is it takes inflammation away and it hydrates you better. So being able to maintain our mineral count that is exactly the same at the source, and also being able to put it in the bottle without any industrial processing allows us to maintain a high level of quality. And I think consumers really appreciate that, that we take good care of. We're stewards of our spring here, and we want it to survive another 155 years, and carry on that legacy and heritage of the brand, not only for the consumers, but also for the community around us.
Right. Super insightful. And it tells us that controlling the entire supply chain, it ensures that the mineral profile, it remains exactly as a nature intended, which is quite the true definition of a premium product. So thank you so much, Nicholas, for what you're doing for health conscious consumers, and spreading education and awareness around this topic as well. Finally, let's look at balancing rapid growth with long-term sustainability. Nicholas, how do you balance rapid growth with long-term sustainability?
Yeah, the way that I'm looking at Formosa Springs is a lot different than the 13 other companies that I started in my career, because this one is about long-term stewardship by investing in our assets, right? The land that's around the 10-acre property, the 2 springs that we have, as well as our manufacturing facility. So one way that we're doing this is trying to make our property and the spring and the business the most sustainable one for long-term legacy and long-term growth. So not cutting any corners and sacrificing any of the quality, but also just investing in long-term asset yield and long-term value for us, for our founding shareholders, but also for the community and society at large. So we're taking a long-term view of our investment strategy versus a high growth yield for a short-term outcome. As far as we're concerned, my family could have this for another 155 years, and also being able to deliver that product across the next, century is what a gift, what a gift. So when we look at this, and I think a lot more entrepreneurs are looking at this, is that you don't really need a short-term exit around your products to have long-term yield and generational wealth and wellness to be created from your activities now. So it's a way different approach to what the traditional startup mentality is. But I think we were gifted with such an old legacy and an old heritage brand that allows us the platform to make these long-term decisions for us and our founding shareholders and the community at large.
Absolutely. This is a great way to kind of, closely to wrap our conversation in terms of how do we find that balance between growth and sustainability and ensuring that growth never outpaces the health of the source is the key to really building a brand that can truly be passed down through generations. This was a great conversation. Thank you so much, Nicholas, as
Oh,
always.
you're welcome.
Great insights to our audiences. As we wrap up now, what advice would you give entrepreneurs that are building a premium brand in a very competitive market?
Yeah, I think that now it's about managing growth and investors' expectations in how you yield growth. And I think that now more than ever, people are starting to look at, it's not just about a 5-year plan; it's about a 25-year plan, right? And how you can actually yield off of that in a very sustainable way that will allow for their investment to be paid off over time with a more steady growth in yield versus expecting 100% a year or 200% a year with an outcome that requires you to sell the company or take it public as a mechanism. But I think that now when people are starting to look at consumer packaged goods, they're starting to look at what's the long-term yield that we're going to have, and what kind of management team is going to be able to develop a long-term yield strategy and carry through with great double-digit growth every year and also profit and EBITDA, right? And that's something where a lot, like the last 15 years, people were less concerned about EBITDA, but over the last 5 years, people really started to go, okay, how do we make sure that the profits are being reinvested into the long-term yield of that? So we put a lot of emphasis on planning out, in decades, not in years, of like, how are we going to invest now into having this yield continue over time in a very sustainable way. And then also, just from a certification standpoint and how we manage our sustainability platform, B Corp certified. We're going to go for our B Corp certification at the plant level, but also as a part of our entire supply chain, and to be able to manage that on a kind of a sustainable platform to get a very high rated sustainable goals. And then manage that with your investment back into the community, your investment back into society, and how you're going to give back. I think that all of this really equates to having a brand that people can trust, a brand that people want to support, and a product that they can embrace. And I think that that's something that Formosa can offer all of our Canadian consumers.
That is such a great reminder, Nicholas, that having a deep personal connection to your source is the ultimate competitive advantage. Thank you so much for joining us and for sharing such great expertise and vision.
Thank you so much for having me.
And listeners, that was Nicholas Reichenbach from Formosa Springs, a masterclass in building generational brands, challenging import markets, and the future of Canadian wellness. Thank you for tuning into the podcast. To learn more about how we are supporting the ecosystem, please visit Canadian SME Small Business Foundation at smefoundation.ca. And before we leave, a special shout out to UPS and ADP for their ongoing commitment to empowering small businesses across Canada. Please keep thriving, and we'll see you in the next one.